Good morning again, everyone. We have a couple people still trying to connect to audio, it looks like, but I think we are just about ready to get started. I'm Katie. I'm with our Business Services section of the Building and Development Services Department in Manatee County. We have with us today Seth with ePermit Hub. He is going to be giving a training on the new digital plan room that's going live on January 25th as part of our online services process. So I am going to turn the floor over to Seth.
Thank you, Katie. Again, my name is Seth. I work with a company called ePermit Hub, and we make the software called the Digital Plan Room, which Manatee County has been working on implementing recently, that we're going live with on Monday, January 25th. During the time together this morning, I'm going to go over several different areas of where you will interact with the digital plan room. We're going to cover the process that you're going to go through on new applications. So we're going to go through the initial submission of any plans and documents associated to your application. Next, we're going to take a look at if an application or a plan review is ever returned to you with any comments requiring you to make modifications to correct any issues with any of your plans or supporting documents. So we'll take a look at what that process looks like. And then third, once we get to the end of an entire process and we have a completely approved application, we'll take a look at the notification that you'll receive from the system letting you know that any of that approved documentation is now available on the Citizen Portal and ready for you to download. So we're going to be covering those three different areas on our session this morning. Just a quick technology check. Can you just confirm that you see my screen up here? And I assume you guys can hear me as well.
Yes, sir. We can see your screen and hear you. And we do also have the chat room up for anyone who has any questions to drop them in there.
Great. Well, just a heads up, I won't be watching the chat because I get distracted way too easily, but the team will be watching that chat and will bring up any questions that we need to discuss along the way. What I'm going to do now, though, is I am logged into the Manatee County Citizen Access Portal. And I'm going to go ahead and resume an application I started earlier. So to save time from you watching me go through an entire application, I went ahead and started filling one out this morning. And so I'm going to go through, I've already identified my parcel and address, already filled out my various contacts that are associated to this. Filled out the project related information here. And once I finished up putting in my project related information, this is the step that today you're usually prompted to go ahead and upload any application documentation that needs to go along with your application. The digital plan room is going to change that process just slightly. The software requires that the application already be submitted for the documentation to be uploaded. So we're going to be uploading it after you make your payment for your application. So this step right here, where the attachments page used to be, now just has an acknowledgement reminding you that I'm going to go ahead and upload all of my documentation after submitting. So I'll go ahead and check that checkbox and make my way to the final step of the application submittal, which is the review step, where I can review my application. check the certification or acknowledgement statement down here at the bottom. My application fees are all getting tallied up right now, so I'm gonna have to pay those here in a moment. Gonna go ahead and check out. Pay with my card. That is not a real credit card, but you're welcome to copy it down if you like. Putting in some test data here. I'm going to submit my payment. And once my payment successfully goes through, my application in the Citizen Access system is opened up. And at that point, we're also opened up in the digital plan room for me to go ahead and submit any documentation. So right down here, in my confirmation here, I have a new button that says upload plans and documents. And if I was paying for multiple applications at the same time, any application requiring any plans and documents would also have a button next to it. So I would see one per. If I go look at my email over here, I also get a notification that my application has been received, but it's guiding me back to upload my plans and documentation. So I can click here to go back in. That'll take me to the same place that the button I just showed you will take me. Additionally, some of these emails are going to be a little bit newer. You may have not have received some of these emails before, but anytime we send you an email asking you to take the next step in the process, you're also going to notice a bolded link, or maybe more than, excuse me, or maybe more than one that's prefixed with a video tutorial. So we've put together several different videos. Each are about 2 to 5 minutes long. They're going to cover a lot of the same things I'm going to cover on this session today, but they're nice for quick reference. So depending on what we're asking you to do as a next step, whether it's submit your initial documentation, whether it's to get back on and look at any plan review comments that need responses, and ultimately submitting any corrections, regardless of what we're asking you to do, there'll be a video specific to whatever that step is that'll contain step-by-step instructions to get you through that particular item. So in addition to everything that you're going to see today, you'll have some snippets of videos that you'll be able to reference in the future here as a part of the process to allow you to go back and get a quick refresher on what it is we're asking you to do. So that email got sent as soon as you submitted your application. If for whatever reason you step away from your computer and you don't get to it on the same day that you submit your application, you will also receive reminders gently nudging you to get your documentation in. Those reminders will have the same links taking you right back into the Citizen portal, as well as also having tutorials available to you. So to kick off the process, I'm going to go ahead and click the Upload Plans and Documents button. And once I do, I land in the digital plan room. Now the digital plan room, even though it's a separate software package to the Excella Citizen Access portal here that you've been using for some time, it is built to be, I guess, what you would call a Citizen Access plugin or app or whatever you want to call it. The digital plan room software is put seamlessly into the Citizen portal. So you don't have to log into another portal to do all your plan review related items. It's all right here in Citizen Access. And it actually, we've set it up so it looks and feels like Citizen Access as well. So if I didn't tell you it was a different software package, the idea is that you wouldn't know at all that it's a separate software package. So the process here is going to be such that instead of just having an uploads page in the citizen portal to upload your documentation, the digital plan room introduces something called a review package to the overall process. And review packages help keep the flow of documentation between you and the county in a structured order so that we know we've got everything from you. You know you have everything back from the county. The review packages are what you can think of like a digital envelope or a digital file folder. You'll notice down here under general, it says review version number 1. This is the initial set of documentation that are going to be submitted for the initial round of review. In the future, if there is a second cycle where we need some small modifications from you, we'll get those back in another review package that'll be number 2 and 3, etc., depending on the process to get everything reviewed. In addition, your review package will also have a section for requirements. So today, I believe you get a message every once in a while, not every once in a while, every time you submit, that there's certain types of documentation that have to be submitted as a part of your application. So those requirements are not going away. They're just moving over here into the digital plan room. So as you upload your documents, it'll keep track. All of these currently have a red circle with a red line through them, indicating that this requirement has not yet been met. As you start uploading your documentation, it'll be showing as the green check mark to help you kind of keep better tabs on, have I uploaded all the requirements for my specific application? So I'm going to, through a little bit of wizardry, I'm going to remove some of these requirements so you don't have to sit here and watch me upload all of these different documents. So I'm going to remove some of those requirements, and then we'll move on to the actual upload phase. So under review version number 1, I am prompted to provide a description for my review package. So I'm just going to put a brief description in here. So you just provide a description for the overall package. And then I'm going to move to step 2. And you can notice that as I move forward, it keeps track of my progress. Step 1 turned to green, saying I passed that step. Step 2 is called file processing, and this is where I'm going to actually upload all of my documents. I will always have this requirements section up here. So I'm going to go ahead and find some documents here to upload. So let's go to my demo files, and let's see, go here. I'm going to select a couple of files, and then I'm going to be prompted with identifying what the files are. And provide a description. Help clarify what I'm submitting in each of these documents. And then I'm going to hit a button that says upload and validate. So normally these buttons just say upload, but we've added a validation step to this process as well. So as a part of submitting, we are going to make sure that the files that you're submitting are in good standing. And what do we mean? We're doing 2 types of validation. At this step, we're doing a file-based validation, and we're doing a digital signature validation. From a file-based validation perspective, the main 2 things we're trying to catch at this point is anything that would prevent us from using this document to move forward with the process. And so the main 2, the most frequent 2 things that we run into are a PDF might be corrupt. And if it's corrupt, I can't open that document. So if you've ever tried to open up a corrupt PDF, you usually just get a message that pops up that says, we can't open it, this file is damaged somehow, that sort of thing. Sometimes the corrupt files are a little bit sneakier than that. It might be a certain page or 2 that are corrupt in the file. So it opens like it seems like it's okay, but then when you get to a certain page, the file crashes and you get a message and you can't move forward. And also, sometimes folks do what they call encrypt their PDFs, meaning they put a password on them. And that is also something that would prevent us from being able to open the file to move forward with the process. So from a file-based validation perspective, we're going to catch both of those things right up front and let you know right away that, hey, there's an issue with this file, please correct it and upload again, so that there's no delays on your end from finding out that there was an issue, and you can go ahead and take whatever steps you need to correct that. The other type of validation that we do is called digital signature validation. So down there in the state of Florida, for digital submissions, professional engineers, professional architects, they are required to digitally sign and seal certain types of documentation when they send it to the authority having jurisdiction for review. So in this case, the planning department at the county there. And from a digital signature perspective, what we're talking about is that those professionals have gone out to what's called a third-party certificate authority, and they've gotten a digital certificate. Now, those third-party certificate authorities, they will make sure that they're issuing that certificate to a specific individual. So as a part of getting that certificate, they go through an identity validation process so that when that certificate is received by the professional engineer or the professional architect, that they know that they are giving it to that specific individual. Part of knowing that you have a valid digital signature is using a digital certificate that is in the sole possession of an individual. When they receive that certificate, they can take that and load it into a tool like Adobe or other PDF editors. And then they can use that certificate to digitally sign files. And when they digitally sign that file, it's actually putting an invisible signature on the document. The technical term is it's putting a cryptographic hash on the document. But what we know is that it's an invisible signature. Even though I may see an appearance of the signature on the sheet that I signed, saying that I digitally signed it, that's what's called the appearance. The invisible signature is something that the digital plan room is going to go about validating. So we're going to be able to catch things like, we expected this file to be signed, but it was not signed. It was signed, but it was signed by a certificate that was expired. So when you get one of those certificates, you usually get it for a specific period of time, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. So if it's expired, we can't accept that. The benefit of a digital signature is it keeps the file pristine, meaning that the digital signed and sealed, emphasis on the sealed part of it, means that we can tell if the document has been modified since it was signed. And so if a document was modified before, since it was signed, but before it was uploaded, we'll also catch those types of validation errors. So there's a number of different errors. I think there's about 14 different things that we can check that could cause problems with your digital signature. But in addition, we'll also catch that issue at upload as well. So if we scroll down here, I see at the top of my message, I see an error has occurred. I've got a corrupted file. I've got an encrypted file. And then if there's a signature issue, it'll have a message that says one or more signatures have a problem. And then the specific problem will be listed out over here. In this case, it's root certificate not trusted. And what that specific item means is that this was signed by a certificate that was not procured by one of the ones that are being accepted by Manatee County. So most jurisdictions in the state of Florida kind of look to the Florida Department of Transportation on their guidelines regarding digital signatures. And their guidelines mostly look at any certificate authorities, third-party companies that are a part of a federal audit program. That means that they get audited on some regular frequency, meaning that they are called something called FPKI compliant. And some of the companies that fit that guidance by that state agency are Entrust, DigiCert, not Global Sign, IdenTrust, but then also various jurisdictions in Florida, including Manatee County, also accept signatures by Global Sign certificates as well. So root certificate not trusted means that a document was signed by a certificate not procured by one of those that are accepted by the county. And so it could be from another company, or sometimes tools like Adobe, for example, allow you to create what's called a self-signed certificate. You kind of, build your own certificate, if you will. And because that's not from a third-party certificate authority that I validated your identity, we also can't accept self-signed certificates in addition to. So if I scroll down, I got this error at the top, and then tooltips next to each one of these errors that'll give me more information about the issue and how to resolve it. And then at the bottom is the list of documents that I uploaded. And next to it will be a status indicating if it passed that validation step. And if it did happen to be a signature validation error, I can mouse over the icon over here and it'll tell me the root certificate is not trusted. And in this case, the seal issued by should say the company that you got the certificate from, which would be Entrust, IdenTrust, Global Sign, etc. And in this case, it says the same name as the person that signed it. So that's an example of a self-signed certificate. So if you have any files that have been rejected, you're going to be able to click the trash can icon right here. And remove those files. And then we can go about uploading the good files. Now I'm going to open up my requirements. So by default, my requirements will be closed. But if I click on here, it'll keep the window open, showing me the status of me uploading my requirements. So I removed a couple of documents here. So let's do these two. We'll do the site plan, and we will do the report here. And I need one more file that is a project narrative. So I'm going to put this in here. Just a random file. I'll put my description in. Click upload and validate. And let's watch what happens with my requirements here in the upper right-hand corner as I upload. So each of them are uploading, and then in the file or the table down at the bottom, as they upload, they will get a status of validating, and they'll stay in that blue status while it's going through and making sure it's a good file, making sure that the digital signature is valid if a digital signature is required. And on the site plan, it validated as well. So if we look up at my requirements, do you see how they changed from the red circle to the green check marks? If I've uploaded everything that's required, my requirements will no longer be red, it'll be green. And again, I can click the double check here, but that'll help me keep track of everything I need to upload. So I'm going to go ahead and click the process files button. So the next step to leave step 2 and go to step 3 is process files. And when I do that, what it's actually doing at this point is it is going through and it is taking any plans and supporting documents. And plans and any supporting documents are required to be submitted in a PDF format. And it is taking those PDFs and it is translating them into a web-based format. So the reviewers and everybody at the county are going to be interacting with your documentation in a digital format, right from within a browser. And you will as well, when you have any comments returned to you that you might need to correct, you will also be interacting in a digital format as well. So during file processing, we are translating those PDFs into that digital web-based format. And for any plan files, we are taking those plan files apart into the individual sheets, and then we are identifying the sheet number on each of the sheets and using that to uniquely identify each page. Because from this point going forward, we're going to manage the versioning of your plans at the page level. And by doing it at the page level, that's going to allow us to allow you during any resubmittals, just be required to submit just any pages that changed. Don't necessarily have to generate a full new plan set every time you resubmit. We're going to encourage you to just submit any of the sheets that changed as a part of the plan review process. Now, when we uniquely identify the sheet numbers, the system has been trained to do that in an automated fashion, and the system will try 4 different ways to identify the sheet number, and it will do it in a very specific order, and that order is in an order of preference. So we're going to start with the most preferred method of identifying the sheet numbers, and then I'll talk you through each thing that we try in the order of that we try it. So when we look at the plan file, first thing we do is we look for a table of contents on the file. And so it's a file table of contents, not a sheet index that might show up on the cover sheet. And we will look for that table of contents. And if that table of contents includes the sheet number, we will grab it from there. And then in addition, if it does have a sheet title in the table of contents as well, we'll also extract out the sheet title. Now, the table of contents is the first thing we try because it is the most accurate thing that we can use to identify what the sheet numbers are. So many different design software packages, when you extract your plans out and export them into a PDF format, there's typically a checkbox available to you that says create bookmarks. And by including that, that will allow you to create a table of contents as a part of the PDF creation. So the first thing we try is the table of contents. The second thing we try is we look for the page labels. Now, if I want to see what the page labels are for a PDF, I can look at the PDF in a thumbnail view. And the text that we see below each page is what we're referring to as the page labels. So if we were not able to get the sheet numbers from the table of contents, then next thing we try is we'll look at the page labels and try to extract them from there. The third thing we'll try is when plans are generated or exported out of design software. Many times they're exported into a vector-based PDF or text-based PDF, and the sheet numbers are applied to the various pages as a very specific type of annotation. So if we were not able to get the sheet number from the table of contents or the page labels, the third thing we'll try is looking for those very specific types of annotations and try to get the sheet numbers that way. So the system has been trained to look for 3 of the most common of what those annotations end up looking like to extract that way. And if we are unsuccessful from the third thing we tried there, the fourth and the last thing that we try is we have trained the digital plan room to know, based on sheet size, approximately where the title block is. And we will, behind the scenes, zoom in on that title block and use some technology called OCR, which stands for optical character recognition. And all that means is it's a fancy term for saying we're going to use image recognition to try and extract all of the text out of that title block. And we'll take all of that text and feed it into the digital plan room. And we'll try to identify the sheet number from all of that text. And we'll use different pieces of logic like look for text that might be bigger than other text. Look for text that might be bolder than other text. And we've also got several different standard sheet numbering patterns set up in our system that we'll also use to try to identify the sheet number as a part of that process. The end result is we will either have a confident extraction of the sheet number, which will include with the sheet, or we won't find anything at all. The fourth step that I mentioned, this OCR step, the image recognition step, is the least accurate of the 4 different steps that we use to try to find the sheet number. And so we offer you an opportunity as a part of the review package to review what was submitted and what was extracted by the plan room and make sure that it is accurate before you finish your submission. So all of that's going on during file processing. We are translating the PDFs to a web-based format. We are taking the plans apart into the individual pages and uniquely identifying the pages by sheet number. And plans can be submitted in one PDF file or multiple multi-page PDFs. So there's no requirement to put it all in one PDF file. You can submit it in multiple PDFs if need be. So I'm just going to go show you my email here. That file processing step typically takes in the neighborhood of 30 seconds to about a minute for an average size project. It can be faster for smaller submittals, and it can be longer for larger submittals. So if we're talking about hundreds of megabytes of plan files or hundreds of sheets and thousands of sheets that are being submitted, that process can take a little bit longer. So you have the option to either stay on this step and wait for it to finish. Like I said, most of the time it'll finish in that 30 seconds to a minute time frame. But if it is taking longer, you can leave this page altogether and you'll get an email letting you know you can return back to Citizen Access and click on this to go to the next step of review package submission. But when file processing is complete, that is not the finish point of your submittal. You need to get all the way through the 4 steps of the review package to submit. So I'm going to go ahead and click the continue button from here. And when I do so, I will land on step 3, which is the sheet versioning page. And the sheet versioning page is going to show you the results of separating your plans into the separate sheets and the identification of the actual sheet numbers. So as I scroll down here, I'll see all of the sheets that were submitted. And I can review. At the very top, it's going to let me know that it found 19 sheets. I can click on any of the sheets if I wanted to take a closer look and double check the sheet number. And then over on the right-hand side, I can fix the sheet number if it's inaccurate. These are all text boxes. And I also have a sheet title. So if the sheet title happens to be available in your table of contents, it will extract that out of there and put it in here. And optionally, you could type it in, but that is not a requirement. So if it's included in the table of contents, we'll grab that. Otherwise, this may be blank. And then right below, it's going to indicate which file contained the plans and from which page that particular sheet was extracted from. Now, there are a couple of requirements for me to get past this step. 1, every sheet has to have a sheet number. And 2, every sheet number needs to be unique across all plan sheets. If any of them are not met, I'll get a red message here bringing my attention to that. And then if I also try to continue, a message at the top of the screen will also let me know the same thing. Now, if I have any sheets that are not numbered, or if I have any duplicates, if I have a relatively large set of plans, if I want to filter out all the sheets that are okay, I can click this button in the upper left-hand corner, and that's going to go ahead and let me know that I'm just looking at any sheets that have any issues. And I can come back in here and make those corrections. And then down here, I can fix this. Now I'm fixing this, assuming that the system didn't number it correctly, and I'm just fixing the sheet numbering here. But if I do indeed have any sheets that are duplicates that came from different PDF files, I would have to correct that at the file source to fix that. Now, when I was done correcting those issues, it didn't have a continue button at the bottom. You saw it said show all sheets. So it's going to ask me to look at all the sheets before I go ahead and submit. But once I'm finished with that, I can go ahead and click continue. And then I land on a step 4. Step 4 is a review step. It's an opportunity for me to take a look at what I'm about to submit. And when I'm about to submit, I can take a look at the description that I typed in. I can take a look at any of the requirements that have been met or unmet. If there aren't any unmet requirements, it's step 4, meaning I have document types that I have not yet uploaded. This finish button will be grayed out, and each of those requirements will show up with a red circle here, letting me know that I have not yet finished my submission. Down at the bottom here, I've got a file section, and it's going to show me the files that I have included with my package. And I can click in the edit button on any of these steps to go ahead and go back and make any changes before I finish submitting. Looks good to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit the finish button. And when I do that, I'm gonna get a green success message that the package has been submitted. The county is also going to be alerted that your package has been submitted. And then down here under the status section, or I'm sorry, under the details of my review package, I noticed that my package has a status of submitted. Now that I've submitted my package, I can't make any more changes to it. So it's going to go through any initial reviews to make sure that it's complete and ready for review. And if it is found to have any deficiencies, the county may update in the system what those deficiencies are, and that will trigger an email to you that you will receive. That email will have whatever they've identified that needs to be resolved in the email, along with a link to open up the review package again. So once you've submitted your package, you can no longer change it unless the county has reopened it for you to make some modifications to make sure that the packet is complete so that it can move on with your completeness review. Okay, so that is how we get our initial documentation submitted. We're going to fill out our application, no different than we already have. The main difference is that last step where we used to upload our documents will just be a reminder step letting us know that we're going to submit our documentation after we've paid for our application. At that point, we'll be prompted with a button that we can click to start the process. We'll also receive an email with a link that will take us to the same location. And if we don't get it done in a timely manner, the system will also gently send reminders with links to get you back in there as well. Once we open up the plan room, we're going to be submitting all of our documentation in a review package. And that package is going to be a digital container that all the files for this initial cycle of review will be contained from. As a part of that, when I upload, all the files are going to go through a validation process. So all files will check to make sure that they're not corrupt and not password protected. Anything that would prevent the system or the county from being able to access them and open them, we'll let you know that right away. And then certain document types are going to require digital signature checks as well. That will also take place. And if there are any validation issues with your digital signature, you'll be prompted on the screen, letting you know what the specific issue is. And you'll have a little question mark tooltip that'll give you more information about what that error is and how to rectify it. Once all your documentation is validated, you can move forward with the file processing step, which takes all of your plans and supporting documents It takes those PDFs and translates them into the web-based interactive format that we're going to be using to collaborate with you on getting your project approved. And then when that processing is done for plan sheets that we took apart, we're going to show you the sheet numbering that was identified. And at that step, you can make any corrections that you might need to do. And then you can continue past that and ultimately submit your review package. That review package, again, once you've submitted it, you can no longer make any changes to it unless the county deems there's some deficiency that needs to be met. And then they can provide you that feedback via email, and that email will contain a link to take you back into the digital plan room. That same feedback will display on the screen in the digital plan room as well. You can go about making those changes because your review package has been reopened. You'll go through, make those changes, go through the 4-step process, hit the finish button, and upon hitting the finish button, you'll have submitted your review package, and the county will be alerted again that it's come back in, and then they will review it and then move it forward with the process. So that's the initial submission of all of your documentation. Now, once we get through an initial round of a completeness review, if any of the reviewers have identified anything that needs to be corrected, they are going to document that in the digital plan room using what's called an issue. So plan review comments are updated in the digital plan room under different names. We have what we call issues, conditions, and notes. Issues are going to be any plan review comments where we're going to require you to respond with a narrative as how you resolved each issue. Conditions are any comments that we're not going to be looking for a response from or any corrections from. These are going to be comments that would need to be satisfied at some point post plan approval, right? During the development of your project. Notes are any plan review comments that are informational in nature. Conditions and notes may result in markups that'll be included on your final approved documentation. So then when you download any plans and print them out, any of those conditions and notes would be included as markup on those approved plan sets. Once we get through that initial cycle of plan review, again, if there aren't any issues that you need to correct, you'll receive an email that looks like this, letting you know that it's been reviewed and it's found to be missing information as required. And at the very bottom here, I'm going to bring your attention down here. This is what you're going to want to focus on if you get the completeness review revisions needed email. Down at the bottom, there's a bulleted list of issues and conditions. And here you can click on the link and that'll take you back into the Citizen Access portal, right to the issue list that you can start reviewing that and start responding to. Okay. Now, in addition, I mentioned earlier, there'll be video tutorials along the way. So in this case, we have a video tutorial about responding to issues. And we also have a video tutorial about how to submit your corrected plans once you've responded. So when you have an issues list, I'm going to click on this to go ahead and open it up. When you have issues to respond to, you're going to be required to provide a response to each of these before you're going to be able to submit your corrected documentation back for review. So when I land on the Issues tab, I'll see a list down here. That list is going to contain the discipline from which the issue is identified from, a brief title of the issue, the issue status. Issues go through a life cycle. Anytime you see an issue in an open status, that means it's waiting on you to respond to. You may see issues in an in review status. You may see issues in an accepted status. All of those represent when they're in review or have been accepted or ultimately not accepted if the corrections didn't satisfy the original issue as documented. But from your perspective, issues are only actionable by you when they're in an open status. There's an attached to column right here. And under attached to, we're going to see things like sheet numbers. We'll see document names, and we'll also see that it's blank under the attached to. When we see an issue that's attached to a sheet number, that means the issue has something to do with your plans. If we see a document name, that means that there's an issue with any or one of the supporting documents that you might have submitted. And if you see that it's blank, that is an issue that's been opened up for the project in general. So the issue isn't attached to a sheet, it's not attached to a specific document, it's a general project issue. As I come through to the right here, I see a created by. These all say the digital plan room, but when you get in the live system next week and beyond, this will have the name of the reviewer that opened up the issue specifically. Any of these columns can be sorted by clicking on them, ascending or descending. I can also filter the list. If I only want to see issues open by, let's say, environmental planning, I can do that. And I can pick multiple different disciplines that I might want to filter it by. And if I want to remove a filter, I just can click on the X on it, the individual data point, or the X on the right-hand side to remove all of them. I also have a print button right here that'll allow me to click print, and that'll open up and give me a list of all of the issues, showing me the discipline, the status, the title of the issue, the description of the issue, what it's attached to, and who opened it. Depending on how I have the table sorted down here, if I clicked on a column to sort it, or if I applied a specific filter, when I click on the print button, it will print whatever's on the screen at that given time, including the filter, including the sort, and all of that. Okay, so if I want to go in here and review the actual comment, I can come in here and I can click on the issue, and that will open up the issue in the sheet viewer. And one of the things that might help me get a further clarification of what the issue is this little magnifying glass. I can click on it, and that is going to zoom me into whatever zoom level the reviewer was at the point where they created the issue. So the reviewer can position your view of the issue to the exact location of where you need to bring your attention to. And there could be one or more markups showing me visually where the issue is. Now I have a title for the issue right here, the reviewer's name right here, and under description, right here, I just have details of the fire department issue will display here, but this could be a couple of sentences, or it could be an awful lot of documentation that helps bring your attention to what has to be corrected. So this description section right here is you're also going to want to pay close attention to, because that's where the bulk of the comments from the reviewer will reside. Down here, you're going to notice there's a blue box that says applicant's response. And if I click on that, I can edit it. And you are going to be required to put in a brief narrative response as to how this issue was corrected. So I'm going to go ahead and put in something like this. So the narrative response detailing how the issue was resolved will be entered here. So this is where you're going to enter that response to the comment. And then once you're done, you'll hit save. And when you hit save, it'll show up as answered in your issues here. So I'm going to go ahead and click the next one. And if there is any markup associated to an issue, you'll notice that I actually do two sets of markups on this sheet right here. I kind of scroll in here a little bit. Down at the bottom is the markup from the last issue I was working with. And at the top, here's the markup from the issue that I'm currently looking at. Now I can use the magnifying glass to zoom into specifically where the issue is here in a moment. But what I want to point out too is if there is multiple issues on a given sheet, then the markup for the issue that you currently have focus on will be in the foreground, and all the markup for any other issue will be in the background. You'll also notice that the markup is different colors depending on the discipline that completed your review. So I'm going to zoom in here on my markup here, and then I'm going to respond with my response as to how I resolved the issue. And then I've got 2 issues down, answered, and 2 to go. So far, the 2 that I've answered are on the sheet C200. And then the next one here happens to be on the second page of this report. So it'll take me directly to the page where they want me to correct something. I can use my magnifying glass to zoom in, and then there may be markup to help me visually identify where I need to make the correction. Then I'll have my title. My detailed description will show right here. And then whomever the reviewer was will display right here. And then I'll provide my response. And then I'll provide my last response. So we've seen an issue opened on a plan sheet. We've seen an issue opened on a supporting document. Now here is one of those general project issues that's not specifically attached to a sheet or a document, but I still have to provide my response like this. And close out of that. And then once I'm done, I will see that I'm prompted at the top that all issues have been answered, that I can click on the Uploads tab to submit the responses. So I can go back to the Uploads tab. So when we were doing our initial submission, we spent all of our time on the Uploads tab. When we're doing our correction response, we've spent most of our time on the Issues tab. And once all the issues have answers, I can navigate back to the Uploads tab, and I will have a second cycle package. We'll notice that my first package is in an accepted state, but my second one's in a new state, meaning that I can go back into it and click resume. And then I'm presented here with a new review package to submit my corrections. So I'm going to go through and start filling this out. I'm going to come in here and just pick document that has my corrections. Going to upload and validate. It's going to show in blue while it's going through that validating step, making sure it's not corrupt, making sure there's no password, and then also validating the digital signature if that is required. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit process files. And this is where it's going to translate my PDF as submitted into the web-based format, take apart plan sheets into the individual sheets, and then uniquely identify each sheet by the page number. So each cycle that I do a submission, I'm going to go through that same process. So this is going to, again, take about 30 seconds to a minute to complete. And while we're waiting here, Katie, are there any questions that we want to address from the comments that you haven't already addressed directly in the comments?
I believe right now we're okay. I'm just scrolling through. Um, I just wanted to mention for anyone not watching the comments, a question came in earlier about whether all documents have to have the digital signature. No, it's only where it's dictated by the Florida Administrative Code that generally applies to architect, engineer, surveyor documents, but your supporting documents in general, they do not require that.
Correct. And I'll make a clarification here while this is processing. Let's select another document here. The way this has been set up is we have this list of document types. This list of document types is not changing. This is the same list that you're presented with today. So that stays consistent. What we did as a part of this process is when we were setting up the digital plan room is we went document type by document type, and we classified each document type as one of three things. They're either plans, they're either supporting documents, or they're attachments. Plans and supporting documents are any documentation that are needed for the plan review. They're also required to be submitted as a PDF format. And attachments are any other application related documents that are needed for your application process, but not necessarily needed for the plan review. And so those can be uploaded as any file type that is allowable by the Citizen Access Portal to be uploaded. Non-PDF files can be attached and the attachment part. In addition to classifying each of these document types as one of the following three: plans, supporting documents, or attachments, we also specified any digital signature requirements as well. So the types of requirements that the types of document types that Katie had just mentioned are ones coming typically from some of those professionals, are the ones that are going to require digital signatures. So I'm going to remove this file and we'll move forward with my process. Now, when I land on the third step on a resubmittal, I have one additional column of information here, a previous version column. So when we get to this step, if it's a resubmittal, if we have extracted any plan sheets from the file for any plan files that already exist within the digital plan room project for this application, then we're going to present it here, showing you a thumbnail preview of the previous version that you are now replacing as a part of the submission. And so this gives you an opportunity. You can click on this as well, and it'll show you the sheet there. So any sheets that are being submitted as a new version will display with that thumbnail preview all the way on the right. And then if there are any sheets being submitted that did not previously exist, the box will say no previous version, like this right here. And that might be a new sheet that's being inserted as a part of the package. Or maybe the system misnumbered something and you need to either look closer at the sheet just to double check what the sheet number was and just correct it manually. Or if it is indeed a sheet that should be a new version, you can also look at what's already in the project and select one of them to link it up as a new version of that previous sheet. So this is available to us to review our resubmittal package and make sure things are numbered correctly. And then when I go to the continue button right here, I land on step 4, which looks a lot like what it did the first time around. The main difference though is that I don't have a requirements section. So that requirements section kept track of the initial required documents to be submitted. But I do have the general description that I entered in step 1, the document or documents that I uploaded at step 2, and now I have an issues section at the bottom, and that's going to identify the issues that I've responded to as a part of this resubmittal. I can click edit to go back. If I want to go back to the issues, for example, maybe I want to take a second look at my responses. If I pop open the print view, this report will be updated with my last response. So if I want to output what the issue was, as well as my narrative response along with it, I can use the print button to do that. And if everything looks good, I can jump back to the uploads and go back through my review package, get all the way back to step 4. Click finish. And this will officially submit my review package for the next cycle of completeness review. And that's how I will interact with the system once review's done and my application has been returned to the applicant with any corrections that are required. Now, a couple other things I'm going to point out to you here is now that I've submitted it, notice that the status of your issues changed from answered to in review. So those will be in review. And then when this cycle completes, if there are any further corrections to make, you'll get an email notification that'll bring you back in here. And any issues that still require your attention will be in an open status. Earlier, we mentioned some other types of plan review comments in the form of conditions and notes. There's tabs for each of these. So I can click on these and review these. But again, these happen to be comments that do not require a response. And any of their markup over here, I have some markup over here, may be included in the final approved set of documentation. So those would show up on the conditions and notes tab. Now, once we get all the way through the process, we get through any rounds of completeness reviews, sufficiency reviews, we get through any public hearings that might be required, and at which point we have our project approved. We will also receive an email notification that looks like this. It will have a link to go ahead and download any approved documents. It will also have a video tutorial link on how to download those approved documents. And I can click on this here. And when I click on it, it will take me into the approved tab in the digital plan room. And from the approved tab, any approved documents will show down here listed. And if I click on download, I can download that document. And open it. And I will see any approval stamps. I see an approval stamp here in the upper left-hand corner. I will also see each review discipline that reviewed, along with any results and the date that they did that review. I'll see any condition or note markup on the set as well. And then as I scroll through, that watermark will be placed on each page indicating approval. So when the overall process is complete and I have approval for my project, all of my documentation will show up here under the Approved tab. Now there's a couple more things that I just want to point out to you here. Is once actually, let me go to my records, because I don't have it in that state in the planning module. Under the action column, so if you have one or more applications that are currently in progress in the citizen portal, you may see them listed under the planning section down here. if your project is in a state where we're waiting on you to submit any documentation. That could either be the initial submittal or return to applicant resubmittal scenario. There will be an upload plans link out here. And if you click on that, that'll open up the plan room automatically for you for whatever application that you clicked on. And then if I go back to my record details, this is going to be the view of your application that you're used to seeing. So this isn't changing other than the fact that we've added a plan room drop-down menu here that'll allow me to go back into the plan room. Okay. And those are the main topics that I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to review with you. The first one being, what does it look like after I submit my application to submit my initial documentation, making sure that all required documents are accounted for. Secondly, we took a look at a situation where an application had been returned to you that had issues in the plan room requiring a response, where I had to respond to all of the issues identified. And then I could go about submitting my corrections. And submitting my corrections, I'm again using a review package to submit my documentation. And after file processing, I can take a look and see the sheets that were identified, and more specifically, make sure that those are sheets that may be a new version of a sheet previously submitted. Ultimately submitting my review, and I may have to go through that process multiple times depending on the scope of the review. But ultimately, when I get through the entire process, post administrative approval, post hearing based approval, I can get approved documentation will be generated automatically in the system. And then you'll also get an email notification letting you know that you can click on a link in that email, take you back into the Citizen Access portal, and ultimately download any of that approved documentation. Any of these email notifications that have been going out along the way, if we are asking you to take the next step, will likely contain a video tutorial going over many of the same things that we went over this morning together, but in a much more concise 2 to about 5-minute video, depending on the topic, reminding you on the step-by-step instructions to get through the submission of that next action that we're asking you to take. So with that, those are the topics I wanted to present to you. Katie, what other questions have come up that we may want to talk about, or anything else that you would like me to point out?
I know we have Tracy Trahan with Planning On Now. She wanted to give a couple of comments on the digital signatures. I also just wanted to mention a couple of people have asked various questions about resources. In addition to a Get Help button that is in the plan room, that's always available for whatever page you're on in the digital plan room, we also are updating My Manatee to provide a lot of training resources there. And you can get to that page directly by clicking the Help button that is in the online services toolbar at the top of the page. Tracy, let me see. You should be able to unmute yourself now if you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks. Sure. Sorry, I'm joining a little bit late, but I think there were some questions about the requirements of the digital signature and maybe some concern with that. And I think Katie's already provided some feedback on why those are required. But I really just wanted to touch on the fact that the improvement that this is going to make to the overall process. As you guys are aware today, we go all the way through the process and then you have to bring paper plans in at the end. It's because we don't have a way to authenticate that digital signature, even if you are providing it through Adobe or some other method right now in the planning section. So that's why we require those paper plans at the end. So this, by going to the process that we're going to with this new software, it's going to allow us to completely be able to go through the entire process electronically and eliminate that need. So I just wanted to point that out. There are many surrounding counties that are doing similar things. I think Hillsborough County, Charlotte County, and soon the city of Tampa as well. So hopefully that answers your question or provides some feedback, and let me know if there's anything else I can help with.
Great, thank you, Tracy. And then Seth, we already touched on a little bit in the chat room, but if you just wanted to speak on the records that are currently open that have already been submitted. I mentioned that we're going to be doing a phased approach based on where those records are at. But I don't know if you have anything else that you want to add to that.
Sure. Yeah, we've spent a lot of time figuring out what our best options are to transition any in-flight applications over to the digital plan room. And if we go about transitioning one of your open or in-flight projects, we'll make sure to reach out to you and let you know. If you have recently submitted an application that has not started completeness review, which would probably be any that happen maybe later this week, those will definitely be transitioned into the digital plan room as they have not started review. But if you already have a completeness review cycle in progress or more than one, or further down the path, you may or may not be transitioned into a digital plan room. So we're working out the logistics on those, but just be certain that we'll be in communication if any of your in-flight projects get transitioned over to the plan room.
Perfect.
I apologize if you hear a whining puppy in the background. We have a brand new puppy who sounds like she is going through the worst trauma of her life right now. So
that poor puppy. And then we also had somebody ask, I just wanted to make sure that everyone saw this because we're super excited about it. In the transition from completeness to sufficiency review, no, you no longer have to resubmit your entire package. We're so excited about that.
And this is Lacey. I would like to also add that we are, as mentioned, going live with the new digital plan room January 25th, some Monday. We are going to be offering some lab time next week that you'll be able to reach out to us. We'll give you a link for that so that we can work one-on-one with you if any questions that you may have. But also the week of go live, we will also be here for support. So we're definitely not throwing you guys out there to figure it out. We're going to be here the whole step of the way to assist you guys so that we can get through this learning curve. But we do, and like Katie said, we are extremely excited with this new software and teaming up with ePermit Hub because we really believe it's going to improve our review process and definitely bridge the gap in the communication between our reviewers and the applicants. So we're super excited about it. And like I said, I'm hoping you guys get as excited as we are. Please feel free to add any, submit any more questions in the chat. And before we end the training for the day. And once again, this training is being recorded and will be available on our website, along with everybody that attended today will get an email link to it.
And this question just came into the chat. Yes, construction plan review will also be using the same system. All right, well, if nobody has any other questions, then I think we can go ahead and close this out. Got 13 minutes early back into your life. And like Lacey mentioned, we'll be sending out a lot of communication on this, updating My Manatee, and we'll be sending out communication next week confirming that this is going live on January 25th. Thank you, everyone.